Welcome to a journey that might just change how you view your place in this world. Today, we're going to explore a concept that has the power to transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you. It's a principle that, when properly understood and applied, creates an upward spiral of success, fulfillment, and meaning. Before we dive in, I want to share the unique approach we'll be taking with this exploration. Rather than following a traditional beginning, middle, end structure, we'll be using what's called a mosaic structure. We'll examine different facets of our central theme, enlightened self-interest and the art of deserving, through various stories, concepts, and principles that might initially seem disconnected. But by the end, these pieces will come together to reveal a complete picture, a mosaic of understanding that's greater than the sum of its parts. This approach mirrors how real wisdom is often acquired, not in a straight line, but through connecting diverse insights that eventually form a coherent whole. Let me start with a question that might challenge your thinking. What if everything you know about self-interest is wrong? Many of us grow up believing that self-interest is fundamentally selfish, that focusing on our own needs and desires somehow diminishes our capacity to care for others. But what if the opposite were true? What if properly understood self-interest is actually the foundation for meaningful contribution to the world around us? This is the essence of what philosophers and economists have called enlightened self-interest, the understanding that our personal welfare is inextricably linked to the welfare of others. It's not a zero-sum game where your gain must be someone else's loss. Instead, it's about creating win-win situations where your pursuit of success simultaneously lifts those around you. Consider the basic instincts that drive human behavior: survival and success. These aren't negative impulses. They're the fundamental forces that have propelled humanity forward throughout history. Every great innovation, every meaningful advance in human welfare has been driven by someone seeking to solve a problem, fulfill a need, or create something of value. The key distinction lies not in whether we pursue our self-interest, but in how we pursue it. Let me share a story that illustrates this principle. I once knew a young entrepreneur named Michael who launched a software company with the sole aim of making as much money as possible. His focus was entirely on what he could extract from his customers, employees, and partners. Initially, he found some success, but it was short-lived. High employee turnover, customer complaints, and a reputation for sharp practices eventually caught up with him, and his business failed within 3 years. Contrast this with Sarah, another entrepreneur I worked with. She started her business with a clear focus on solving a specific problem that she herself had experienced. Her self-interest, creating a solution and building a sustainable business, was aligned with genuinely helping others overcome the same challenge. She treated her employees as partners in this mission, her customers as the people she was privileged to serve, and her suppliers as essential contributors to her success. 10 years later, her company is thriving, she's financially secure, and most importantly, she's created a business that has positively impacted thousands of lives. The difference between Michael and Sarah wasn't that one pursued self-interest and the other didn't. Both were pursuing their self-interest. The difference was that Sarah understood the principle of enlightened self-interest, that true sustainable success comes when your gain also creates gain for others. This brings us to a crucial distinction that sits at the heart of our discussion today: the difference between needing and deserving. We all have needs, for security, success, connection, meaning, and so much more. But merely needing something doesn't mean we deserve to receive it. Deserving requires action, contribution, and growth. Imagine for a moment that you're in desperate need of a new job. You have bills to pay, a family to support, and your current position is coming to an end. The need is real and urgent. But from the perspective of a potential employer, your need alone doesn't qualify you for the position they're offering. What qualifies you is what you can contribute: your skills, experience, attitude, and the value you can create for their organization. In other words, you must deserve the opportunity by being the solution to their problem. This principle extends far beyond employment. It applies to every aspect of life where we hope to receive something of value. Do you want a loving, supportive relationship? Then you must become the kind of person who deserves such a relationship by being loving and supportive yourself. Do you want financial abundance? Then you must provide value that deserves to be abundantly compensated. Do you want respect and recognition? Then you must live and act in a way that deserves to be respected and recognized. There's a timeless wisdom in the biblical phrase, "You reap what you sow." To have a harvest, you must first plant the seeds. To receive, you must first give. To deserve, you must first become. But this doesn't mean that deserving guarantees immediate receiving. This is where another critical element enters our mosaic: patience. In our age of instant gratification, patience has become an increasingly rare virtue. We want results now: the promotion, the relationship, the recognition, the wealth. But meaningful achievement rarely works that way. The most valuable rewards often require time. Time for seeds to grow, for compound interest to accumulate, for skills to develop, for reputation to build, for opportunities to emerge. Consider the bamboo farmer who plants seeds and waters them faithfully every day. For the first year, there's no visible growth. The second year, still nothing appears above the soil. The third and fourth years, his continued care seems to yield no results. But in the fifth year, something remarkable happens. The bamboo suddenly shoots upward, growing up to 90 feet in just 6 weeks. Did the bamboo grow 90 feet in 6 weeks? Not really. It grew 90 feet in 5 years. For the first 4 years, it was developing an elaborate root system that would support its eventual rapid growth and sustain it for decades to come. Without patience, without the perseverance to keep watering seemingly barren soil, the spectacular growth would never have occurred. Your life works much the same way. The seeds you plant today, the skills you develop, the relationships you nurture, the value you create, the character you build, may not yield immediate visible results. But beneath the surface, roots are growing. And when the time is right, your bamboo will shoot upward in ways that will astonish both you and those around you. This is why the concept of keep knocking to find open doors is so powerful. It's about persistent, patient action in the face of apparent non-response. It's about deserving through consistent effort, even when the rewards aren't immediately forthcoming. I'm reminded of a story about a now famous author who received 67 rejection letters before her first book was accepted for publication. She could have stopped at rejection number 20 or 40 or 60, concluding that her work wasn't good enough or that success wasn't meant for her. But she kept knocking on doors, kept refining her craft, kept believing that if she persisted in becoming the writer she aspired to be, eventually a door would open. And it did, in a bigger way than she could have imagined. Today, her books have sold millions of copies and impacted countless lives. What if she had stopped knocking? What if she had allowed rejection to define her rather than using it as feedback to help her grow and improve? The world would have lost a voice that has brought insight and inspiration to so many. When we embrace the principle of keep knocking, we acknowledge that doors don't always open on our preferred timeline, but we also affirm our belief that if we continue to develop, to serve, to create value, to deserve, eventually the right doors will open at the right time. This brings us to another facet of our mosaic, the power of service. There's a profound paradox at work here. The path to personal greatness often runs through service to others. The more you help others solve their problems, the more your own value and opportunities increase. Throughout history, the individuals who have achieved the greatest success and recognition are those who have solved the biggest problems or served the most significant needs. Thomas Edison didn't become famous and wealthy by focusing on his own enrichment. He did so by developing inventions that improved the lives of millions. Mother Teresa didn't seek personal aggrandizement. She sought to serve the most vulnerable, and in doing so, became one of the most respected and influential figures of her time. When you orient your life around solving problems and serving needs, you automatically align yourself with the principle of enlightened self-interest. Your success becomes contingent upon creating value for others, which means the more successful you become, the more value you've created. Take a moment now to reflect on your own life and aspirations. What problems are you uniquely positioned to solve? Whose needs could you serve in ways that would also fulfill your own goals and desires? How could your self-interest be more effectively aligned with creating benefit for others? This isn't about denying your own needs and desires. It's about recognizing that the most sustainable, fulfilling way to meet those needs and desires is through creating value for others. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? When you can give a compelling answer to that question, you'll often find that your own needs are met in the process. But service alone isn't enough. To truly thrive in this complex world, we need ideas, good ideas that guide our actions and decisions. As Jim Rohn famously observed, ideas can be life-changing. Sometimes all you need is one idea that opens the door to a new pathway forward. The quality of your life is directly influenced by the quality of your ideas, ideas about what's possible, about how the world works, about your own capabilities, about the best use of your time and energy. These ideas aren't static. They can evolve and improve as you expose yourself to new information, perspectives, and experiences. This is why continuous learning is so essential. The most successful, fulfilled individuals are invariably those who never stop seeking new insights and understanding. They read widely, they listen carefully, they observe thoughtfully, and they reflect deeply. They recognize that every person they meet knows something they don't, so they approach each encounter as an opportunity to expand their understanding. But accumulating ideas isn't enough. You must also evaluate them critically, testing them against reality and your own experience. Not every idea that sounds good is actually good. Some ideas that have immediate appeal turn out to be deeply flawed when examined more closely or applied in real-world situations. Developing discernment, the ability to distinguish between helpful and unhelpful ideas, is a critical skill in a world overflowing with information, opinions, and advice. This doesn't mean becoming cynical or dismissive of new perspectives. Rather, it means developing the habit of thoughtful consideration, asking questions like, does this idea align with what I know to be true? Has it been tested in real-world conditions? What evidence supports it? What would be the consequences of acting on this idea? Once you've accumulated and evaluated ideas, the next step is to develop plans based on the best of them. Ideas without action remain in the realm of fantasy. Plans convert them into possibilities. But here again, we encounter the principle of deserving. The best plans aren't just about what you want to achieve. They're about the value you intend to create, the problems you aim to solve, the needs you seek to meet. As you develop your plans, ask yourself, who will benefit from the successful execution of this plan? How will it create value for others, as well as for myself? What problems will it solve? What needs will it address? The more your plans align with creating benefit beyond yourself, the more likely they are to succeed and to yield the rewards you seek. This brings us to another crucial element in our mosaic, the effective use of time. Time is the one resource that's distributed with perfect equality. We all have exactly 24 hours in each day, but the results we achieve with that time vary enormously. Some people accomplish remarkable things in a single decade. Others drift through life, perpetually wondering why success and fulfillment elude them. The difference isn't the amount of time, but how it's invested. And yes, invested is the right word here. Like any investment, time can be allocated wisely or squandered. It can appreciate in value or depreciate. The choice is yours, made moment by moment, day by day. Think about how you've used your time over the past week. How much of it was invested in activities that will yield future returns, developing skills, building relationships, creating value, growing in character? And how much was consumed in ways that leave nothing of lasting value? Endless scrolling on social media, binge-watching shows you barely remember, complaining about circumstances without taking action to change them. I'm not suggesting that every moment must be productive in a conventional sense. Rest, recreation, and reflection are essential investments in your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. The key is intentionality, choosing how you use your time rather than simply letting it slip away unnoticed. When you begin to view time as a precious investment resource, you naturally become more discerning about how you allocate it. You start to evaluate activities not just by their immediate gratification, but by their long-term returns. You become more willing to delay gratification for the sake of future rewards, one of the most reliable predictors of success in any area of life. This perspective on time connects directly to our theme of deserving. When you invest your time wisely, in developing your capabilities, in serving others, in creating value, you're actively increasing what you deserve to receive. You're planting seeds that will eventually yield a harvest, often a far more abundant harvest than you could have produced through short-term, self-focused thinking. But wise time investment requires more than just good intentions. It requires systems and habits that support your highest priorities. It means learning to say no to the merely good to make room for the truly excellent. It involves regular evaluation of how your time is being spent and whether that aligns with your most important goals and values. One practical approach is to identify your big rocks, the activities and commitments that matter most in your life, and ensure they're scheduled first before your calendar fills with less important demands. Another is to establish boundaries around how much time you'll devote to potentially unlimited activities like social media, entertainment, or even work. A third is to regularly audit your time use, perhaps keeping a time log for a week to see where your hours are actually going rather than where you think they're going. The goal isn't perfection or rigid control, it's stewardship, the careful, intentional management of a valuable resource for maximum benefit to yourself and others. When you become a good steward of your time, you're positioning yourself to deserve greater opportunities, resources, and rewards. This brings us to another critical piece of our mosaic, the mindset of generosity. At first glance, generosity might seem at odds with self-interest. Doesn't giving things away reduce what we have for ourselves? But enlightened self-interest recognizes a profound truth. Giving is essential to receiving. This isn't some mystical principle, although many spiritual traditions affirm it. It's a practical reality of how human relationships and economies function. Giving of your time, attention, knowledge, resources, or care creates connections. It builds trust. It demonstrates value. It opens doors that remain closed to those focused solely on what they can get. Consider the networking event where one person circulates with the clear agenda of finding prospects to sell to, while another moves through the room genuinely interested in learning about others and how they might be of service. Which approach do you think builds more meaningful, productive relationships? Which creates more opportunities over time? Or think about the difference between a business that focuses narrowly on extracting maximum profit from each transaction versus one that prioritizes creating exceptional value for its customers, even when that means occasionally accepting lower margins. Which builds more customer loyalty? Which generates more positive word of mouth? Which is more likely to thrive over the long term? The principle of giving starts the receiving process doesn't guarantee immediate returns. It's not a vending machine where you insert a coin and immediately receive a product. It's more like planting a garden. You must give first, the seed, the water, the care, often for some time, before you begin to receive the harvest. This requires faith, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in the process, faith in the principle that genuine value creation eventually leads to value received. This kind of faith isn't blind, it's based on observable patterns in how the world works. When you consistently contribute, serve, and add value, good things tend to come back to you, often in unexpected ways and from unexpected sources. I'm reminded of a businessman I know who made it a practice to look for ways to help others with no expectation of return. He would make introductions, share information, offer advice, provide encouragement, whatever seemed most needed in each situation. He didn't keep score or expect reciprocation. He simply gave from a place of genuine care and abundance. Over time, something remarkable happened. Opportunities began flowing to him from all directions. People remembered his generosity and looked for ways to return it. His network of relationships became his greatest asset, providing leads, partnerships, resources, and support that he could never have accessed through direct pursuit. His giving had indeed started a receiving process that exceeded his expectations. But generosity isn't just about strategic advantage. It's also about the kind of person you become through the practice of giving. Generosity expands your perspective, increases your empathy, reduces your fear of scarcity, and connects you more deeply to the people and world around you. It makes you someone who deserves to receive because you've demonstrated your willingness to give. This connects to another essential element in our mosaic, the cultivation of patience. As mentioned earlier, many of life's most valuable rewards require time to manifest. The seeds you plant today, whether through service, skill development, relationship building, or problem solving, often take months or years to produce their full harvest. In a culture obsessed with immediate results, patience can seem like a quaint, outdated virtue. But in reality, it's more valuable than ever precisely because it's so rare. The person who can maintain consistent effort toward worthy goals without the need for constant validation or immediate payoff has an enormous advantage in virtually every area of life. Patience isn't passive waiting, it's active perseverance. It's continuing to do the right things consistently, even when the results aren't yet visible. It's trusting the process enough to stay the course when others are giving up or constantly switching directions. It's understanding that meaningful achievement typically involves a gestation period, a time when progress is occurring beneath the surface, invisible but essential. This kind of patience requires a long-term perspective. Instead of evaluating your progress day by day or week by week, you learn to take a longer view, assessing your growth over months and years. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback or refusing to adapt when something isn't working. But it does mean distinguishing between normal, necessary periods of seeming non-progress and genuine stagnation that requires a change in approach. Developing patience also involves managing your expectations. Many of us suffer not because reality is inherently disappointing, but because our expectations are unrealistic, often shaped by carefully curated success stories that edit out the struggles, setbacks, and long periods of invisible growth that preceded the breakthrough. When you understand that significant achievement typically involves these elements, you can approach your own journey with greater patience and resilience. One practical way to cultivate patience is to celebrate process over outcomes. Instead of focusing exclusively on whether you've reached your ultimate goal, acknowledge and appreciate the progress you're making along the way. Did you show up and do the work today? Did you learn something valuable? Did you maintain your commitment despite difficulties? These process victories deserve recognition and can sustain your motivation during the inevitable periods when outcome victories are scarce. Another approach is to study the actual timelines of success in your field or area of interest. How long did it typically take for people you admire to achieve the level of mastery or success you're aiming for? Understanding realistic timeframes can help you calibrate your expectations and develop the patience needed for long-term achievement. As your patience grows, so does your deservingness. You become someone who can be trusted with greater opportunities and responsibilities because you've demonstrated your commitment to the process, not just your desire for the rewards. You've shown that you understand the principle of sowing and reaping, that harvest comes in its season, not immediately after planting. This brings us to a final, crucial piece of our mosaic: the power of problem solving. Every significant opportunity, every meaningful reward is connected to solving a problem or meeting a need. The more effectively you position yourself as a problem solver, the more you deserve to receive the benefits that come from providing solutions. Consider the highest paid individuals in almost any field. What are they being compensated for? Fundamentally, they're being paid for solving problems. Important, difficult, valuable problems. The surgeon who can successfully perform a complex life-saving operation, the attorney who can navigate a challenging legal situation, the executive who can turn around a struggling company, the entertainer who can solve the problem of boredom or stress by providing compelling diversion, all are problem solvers, and their rewards are commensurate with the value of the problems they solve. This perspective can transform how you approach your career, your business, even your personal relationships. Instead of asking, What can I get from this situation? You begin to ask, what problems exist here that I might help solve? This shift doesn't diminish your self-interest. It aligns it with creating value for others, which is the essence of enlightened self-interest. Becoming an effective problem solver starts with developing problem awareness. Many people move through life oblivious to the problems and needs around them, missing countless opportunities to create value and receive the rewards that come with it. Cultivating the habit of noticing what's not working, what's missing, what could be improved, is the first step toward becoming someone who deserves greater rewards. Once you've identified problems, the next step is developing the capabilities needed to solve them. This might involve acquiring knowledge, developing skills, building resources, or cultivating relationships with others who complement your abilities. The more complex and valuable the problems you can solve, the more you deserve to receive in return for your solutions. But capability without action remains potential, not value. To deserve the rewards of problem solving, you must actually engage with problems and work diligently toward solutions. This often involves risk, uncertainty, and the possibility of failure. But these challenges are precisely what make the eventual solutions valuable. If solving the problem were easy and risk-free, the rewards for doing so would be minimal. When you consistently approach life as a problem solver, someone who creates value by addressing needs and challenges, you position yourself to deserve increasing levels of reward and opportunity. Not because you're entitled to them, but because you've genuinely earned them through your contribution. As we bring the pieces of our mosaic together, a clear picture emerges. Deserving is active, not passive. It's about becoming someone whose contribution warrants the rewards you seek. It's about aligning your self-interest with creating value for others. It's about patience, persistence, generosity, wise time investment, and effective problem-solving. This approach to life doesn't guarantee that you'll immediately receive everything you might wish for. The world isn't perfectly just or meritocratic, but it does dramatically increase the likelihood that over time you'll receive far more than you would through short-sighted self-focus or passive entitlement. More importantly, it transforms who you are in the process. As you practice these principles, as you align your self-interest with serving others, as you give generously, as you solve meaningful problems, as you cultivate patience and perseverance, you become someone of greater capability, character, and contribution. You become, in the deepest sense, more deserving not just of external rewards, but of your own self-respect and satisfaction. And that may be the most valuable reward of all, the knowledge that you're living in alignment with timeless principles of value creation and human flourishing, that you're not just taking from the world but adding to it in meaningful ways, that your pursuit of self-interest is enlightened, benefiting not just yourself, but the people and communities you're connected to. Let me leave you with a challenge and an invitation. For the next 30 days, commit to approaching your life through the lens of enlightened self-interest and the art of deserving. Ask yourself these questions daily. How can I create value today, not just for myself but for others? What problems can I help solve even in small ways? How am I investing my time to increase what I deserve to receive? In what ways can I give first, trusting that giving starts the receiving process? Where do I need patience, recognizing that the most valuable rewards often take time? Document your reflections and actions. Notice how this perspective shifts your focus, your priorities, and ultimately your results. Share your insights and experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to begin their own journey toward enlightened self-interest and the art of deserving. Remember, you are capable of creating enormous value in this world. You can align your self-interest with serving others in powerful ways. You can become someone who truly deserves the success, fulfillment, and impact you desire. And in doing so, you'll not only transform your own life but contribute to the transformation of the world around you. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. If you found value in it, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with others who might benefit. Until next time, remember, your greatest fulfillment comes not from what you get, but from what you become in the process of deserving it.